Well, as you can see, we have another engine set in here. So during the silent video, you've seen us pull that engine out. And then of course, during the other video, the silly video, we were talking about Jared not being able to find an engine. And we thought we were checking with every place all around the country, and we could not find anything. And we found this one right in our backyard. This is going to turn this Sterling / Ford, because this generally is a Ford truck. Sterling bought out Ford, and then Sterling was bought out by Daimler, whatever, and now Sterling is no more. But being that we're Ford fans now, we're going to turn this into a hot rod truck. This engine here, we can't tell you where we got it from because that's a secret. We're not supposed to have this engine. But the reason why we couldn't find one is this one flew way in under the radar. This engine here is out of a fire truck, and it is rated at 525 horsepower. So don't tell anybody about that we have this, because we can actually get in trouble for talking about it, really. That's what they told you, didn't they? Yeah. So we've got to keep it quiet. So when you see this truck out and around, just know that it's going to have a few horses under the hood. They've got just some things to switch around on it. Jared's going to try moving some pulleys around. This is an older engine than this one. This one's got a serpentine pulley coming off the front. He's going to see if he can switch that stuff around. The fan clutch on this one is brand new, and we're going to see if we can get that moved over onto here as well. If not, oh well. But at any rate, that's what it is. So yeah, but he's got some stuff to switch around. The air compressor on this engine is new, but this one has one on there. So yeah, this one came with a clutch, but we don't know what kind of condition that clutch is in. So we're going to have to take both clutches off and see what kind of condition they're in. It looks as though this has the same bell housing as that one. We ran into a situation with that truck that Jared rolled over several years ago, truck 13, oddly enough. That was the number of it. That was a 2004 International Paystar 5600i. That had a C15 in it, an MBN C15, and the truck got totaled. However, the engine was good in it, but it broke the bell housing when it went over. So I ordered a bell housing. I ordered the same bell housing that was on it. However, the chassis that that engine and transmission went into, which is now truck 15, that's a 2001 5600i, and they had the holes in the frame different, and we had to drill. They weren't off by much. The front structure where the front went on, that was in this same exact spot. The truck did originally have a C16 in it, but the bell housing, they used a different bell housing from 01 to 04, and then they changed again in 06, I believe, because the 06 truck 14 that we have, that bell housing was different. That was almost like a 01. it had a Cummins ISX in there, but they still looked like this. The bolt structure on the inside was different, but the outside, the manufacturer had to kind of go with, the engine manufacturer had to go with what the truck manufacturer wanted, I think. But it did take a little goofing around to get the engine from 13 to fit in 15. We are going to have to look this over real good. This truck is an 02, and this engine came out of a 99. It's a 40 pin, that one's a 70 pin. So Jared's got a wire harness ordered to run the 70 pin truck off of the 40 pin engine, if that makes sense. So this one's got taller manifold or valve covers on it. We don't know if the jakes are different on there, and we might run into a situation where it rubs on the way in. So we might have to do a little modifying there. So we'll talk about this one more as we get into doing the actual install. Well, look at what just rolled in here today. This is the cab for the 8110. So Steve went and picked this up a while ago, and he had some other freight on here that he ended up delivering already, and this is the last piece of the puzzle. For those of you that don't know Steve, he has a channel as well, ISX Cummins 565. He actually delivered the two Freightliner trucks that we bought, oh, it was almost 2 years ago. He also delivered the truck that my uncle bought. Steve, how's it going? Well, it's like it's like 45 degrees now. We had 10 below here yesterday morning.
I heard about that. I was down there in Panyan at Mose Horning's place, and he was saying he couldn't get his equipment to run.
Yeah.
Gelled up.
Yeah. So I was just telling everybody this is ISX Cummins 565, and I was telling them that you've been here before.
I've been here.
Couple times.
Been in the summertime.
Yeah, he stopped in, I don't know what truck it was, but he came over to the field when we were
Truck number 2.
planting corn, and the first one when he delivered that I wasn't here, and the second one he says let's meet up. I said sounds good. We put him to work that day, filling corn planter up. But we'll go ahead and get this unloaded. It's in as good a condition as what the pictures showed us.
Yeah, it looks like it is.
Got it on a nice pallet anyway.
Yes.
I don't know if I've got, my forks ain't long enough to get underneath there. We'll have to strap it or something. What length forks did they load it with?
I think he had 4-foot forks.
Oh yeah?
48 inches or whatever they are.
They load from this side or the other side?
From this side.
Really? Well, we'll try it. Yeah, I guess most of the weight is on this side.
Yeah, I think
So, the only thing is I don't want that to come back on me. I'll take that window out. We had a window put in a 7290 a couple weeks ago, 1,100 bucks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a full glass.
Yeah,
man,
full
look.
piece of glass. Yeah. Well, I'll get the telehandler here and get ready to unload him. Well, that cab unloaded better than I thought it was gonna. Steve, he picked up this big moose catcher for his truck. I think he said it was about a year ago. That come out of Canada, and he said that was stuck in customs for about a month. That was about a year ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He said he hasn't had a chance to use it yet. But I think there was somebody had...
Quite intimidating when they start coming out of the woods and they see you with that, they just kind of stay back for a little bit.
Yeah, you were parked next to a guy that hit one the night before or something a while ago, and he had one on there, right? And blood all down the side of his truck, and...
Yeah, he busted it was a caribou, busted the animal, and the guts and everything just went all over, and it was cold that night. I think it was like 0. And everything just instantly froze on the truck. I woke up the next morning and I looked out my window and I see a couple of guys walking around the front. And they were talking about it. And I thought, man, what a fancy paint job.
Yeah.
I was still rub the sleep out after I got there. I looked, I said, oh man, that's guts on that truck. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get Steve paid and let him get on his way. And hopefully we can get an engine for that tractor soon. Well, Steve dropped this cab off here last night. We shot the breeze for a while and didn't really have a chance to do too much more looking around here, but this cab looks like it's in decent shape, other than it needs some upholstery, but at least the metal is all in good shape here. So we'll go ahead and see what Jared's working on, but this is a decent solid cab which came off of an 8410. They also bought a weight bracket too. That weight bracket that's on the 8110 is broke. They ran into the bunk wall with it one day. And yeah, so we'll run inside and see what Jared's up to. Well, some of you may have seen the post that I put on Instagram. What we're working on here is this 900 mixer. We're getting ready to scrap it. So this was involved in a fire a few years ago, and the tractor burned, and then the fire got back onto the mixer wagon. It burned the hoses off of it. It burned all the wiring for the scale. However, it didn't hurt the lines going to the planetaries. So I ended up putting a post on Facebook that, you know, if anybody's looking for screws or planetaries, to hurry up and get a hold of me. These screws are, I would say, 3/8 of an inch thick. This was rebuilt, well, maybe 2-3 years before it caught on fire. What I want to do with it is save the undercarriage and maybe build a stone wagon on top of it with a truck hoist. That's the plan. So we're going to keep the undercarriage. We've got to get a tire on there. These flotation tires actually came on the 1200 mixer that we have, and we robbed the rims off of this one so that we could put low profile tires on that other 1200, because the spread on the axles isn't as far, and they had it designed for this flotation tire, which didn't work all that great. The previous guy that owned it, they were having problems with keeping tires on it, and they discontinued using it for that reason. And it was needing a rebuild. So we'll throw this on the scrap truck, and then we'll cut our weigh bars off, lift the tub up, and back a trailer in. Well, pull the undercarriage out, back a trailer in, and set it on the trailer. If I've got one guy that sent me his phone number, I'm gonna call him and see If them screws are worth anything to them, it's not really, I can't give them away. It's just, you got time and getting them out of there, I'll just scrap the whole thing. I'm not going to give anything away. So we'll touch base with you once we get a little more of this ripped apart. We ended up robbing the conveyor chain off of it because the chain it wasn't that old. We salvaged the chain out of it, and we took the drive line out of it, and we used the drive line on the 1200 mixer because the 1200 mixer had a 2-speed gearbox on it. And I took the gearbox off and sold the gearbox, and then we ran the drive line off of this, the carriers and the shaft going back to the first planetary. But yes, this still has oil in the planetary, so those should be good. This hose is a little melted. These ones here are melted, but there's oil in there. So being that there's oil in there, that means they are still good. It got into the wiring, but it didn't hurt the planetaries, so everything is pretty much intact under the mixer wagon. You got some wires there that got a little heat damage, but the planetaries held up well. We also robbed the taillights off of this because that 1200 didn't have them on there. This mixer wagon here is a 2011 model. We bought this new April 14th, 2011, and it was about 3 years ago when the 7810 that was hooked to it caught on fire, and that burned, and when that burned, it went back onto the mixer. The flames it was pretty windy that day, and the flames just went back onto it. The front of the tractor didn't even burn. The engine's still good in that frame, so we've got to get that tore apart here sometime as well. Well, remember I said I had somebody on Facebook that inquired about this mixer wagon. Well, they ended up buying it, so Nate is not too happy with me, is he? Do you want to smack me now, or you want to wait till I get my eye fixed? You'll wait till later? Well, I got a hold of the gentleman that inquired about this mixer wagon, and he wants to take the whole thing. So we ended up selling everything to him. I wanted to originally keep the undercarriage, but I said, you know what, I'm probably not gonna have time to get to doing what I want to do with it, and it's just gonna give me a project that's gonna hang over my head forever. So we have 4 of these flotation tires. We grabbed one of the spares that we had, and we're going to get that mounted up so it'll hold wind. That one is ruined, and that way we can get it up on the trailer for them. The conveyor, we're just gonna put it back into place. So we'll get this back together and get it out the door. Well, Jared's slowly gaining on this project. He has removed the clutches from both of them, and the bell housing that was on this engine that he bought was cracked. And the reason why it was cracked was because it had some broken bolts where it bolts onto the rear part of the structure. And what he has had to do is tap out them 12mm holes, and he's turned them into 1/2-inch holes. And now he has put 1/2-inch bolts in. He's using red Loctite on them, torquing the bolts, and he's hoping that they stay in there. But this bell housing had some cracks in it. Oh, where are we here? There's one right there, all the way around. I think there was one on the other side as well.
I think someone tried to weld it.
You think so? Where is that one right there? No.
No. Right
Yeah, that's correct right there.
Oh, maybe that was.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's cracked there too.
Right there. So,
Got a lot of cracks in it.
yeah. This had a 6-paddle clutch. The C10 had a 4. And the clutch that was in the C10, that was wore right out. And we're going to use the clutch that came out of the C12. We're going to reuse that one. So this one is just about spent. And we're going to reuse this one. Well, Jared's got his engines moved around here. He has taken the used engine that we bought out of this crate. He's draining the oil out of this old one. What do you need? The oil plug out of it? The drain plug?
No, it was hitting on the crate. It was going to break the.
Oh, this.
We're not.
What did this have? The that
It
quick
had
drain?
an oil temperature sensor on it. It's not the drain. The drain would be in the front. It's in the.
Oh, the oil temperature sensor in the side.
Yeah.
So he's removing that, just gonna put a pipe plug in there. He has the lifting eye off of the front. He put that on the other engine like we shown here a moment ago. He'll get this settled down in this crate, and then he needs to take this lifting shackle or eye off and put it on the other engine so he can get ready to set that other engine into that truck. So I'm going to show you what we've got done on this Western Star. We're ready to fire it up, and I do want to send out a thank you to Mark from Lansing, New York. I just got this box here a little while ago, and he sent me a pile of hats, and he sent me a couple of lifting eyes. This will come in handy for lifting various things, 3/4 thread. And we can use these for various things. So I want to thank Mark for dropping or sending these hats out to us. Looks like a bunch of John Deere hats. There's a couple of Pioneer hats, so on and so forth. I don't want to thumb through too many of them because I don't want to get them dirty. So we'll show you what we have done on this Western Star. I have everything all hooked up. I've got to turn the oil on the tank, turn the ball valve on so it can return oil, and I need to turn the ball valve on so that we can deliver oil to the pump. I do have to throw another coat of paint on this bracket that the valve assembly itself is sitting on. We've primed it, we've painted it, we painted the bottom of the valve, and that is all set to go. These catwalks, I need to put them into place. This rear one, well, I got this front one's gonna go. Just gonna set that up here just so that we've got something to start us up the fuel tank and over the top of the valve body itself. Now this one here is going to go in there like that, and I was originally going to cut this out for this filter, but it's going to take the strength right out of this, so we're going to leave that alone, and I think I'm just going to set a piece of channel iron in here and weld it up next to this one, or just set it on the frame. So we've got to do something there because we don't want anybody to get their leg down in that hole that's there. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire this up. We're going to run it, make sure we don't have any oil leaks, because I don't want to have any oil leaks after this is all painted. We'll have to unhook these air lines, tuck them up out of the way, cover the filter up, cover our fittings up, and then get paint on this whole thing here. So why don't we go ahead and fire it up and see what kind of leaks we have. We ended up running a 1/4 inch line here all the way up into the cab. I ended up putting a console in that is between the seats here. So we've got our PTO switch, we've got our pump switch here, and then we have our other valve that we will use for a hoist on a trailer. I've got a gauge in this lid of this cover here that's on the console, and what that'll allow us to do, we'll be able to maintain system pressure right from the cab, and the gauge works good for being able to know kind of when your tank is empty. Your pressure is going to drop down to, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 pounds once the tank is empty, because there's just not enough restriction against the hydraulic motor that's on the tanker itself. So we'll go ahead and we'll crawl in underneath here, kind of show you a few things here. I haven't really talked to you much during the install of all of this stuff. So we've got 50 gallons of hydraulic oil in our tank. I ended up using that panel 3M material on panel bonding the 3M panel bonding material to seal up them fittings, and you'll see that we have nothing on the floor, not one drop. So we'll turn these ball valves on, and then what we'll do once we get done with this, we'll take these handles right off, just so that corn stalks or what have you don't turn them. The other thing I can do, just kind of looking at it here, I could put a big zip tie around there as well, just so that we don't end up knocking one of these closed, because that would make for a bad day. You're going to blow a hose off in a hurry. So we've got our tank return on, and now we will turn on the oil so that it'll make its way up to the hydraulic pump. So we've got the hydraulic pump mounted on the back side of the PTO. This is a Muncie pump, and if you recall, we put a used PTO on here. This is a hot shift PTO that we originally had on the C5, and I don't know if a bearing went in it or what. Looks like I got a bolt loose right there that I've got to tighten up yet. The stud that's in there is loose, so I need an 11/16 wrench to tighten that. So we've got that installed along with the pump, like I was saying, and then I built this bracket that supports the tail end of this hydraulic motor or hydraulic pump, and that is bolted right to the transmission. You could buy these brackets from buyers, but being that this pump is a little different, the studs are farther apart, so I end up cutting the bracket, and then I end up welding a piece in there to get it to work. And outside of manufacturing the whole thing myself, it's just easier to buy the bracket and fabbing it together like that. So we're gonna get rolled out from underneath here. And the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and hook up our flow meter. And what we're going to do is we're going to see, well, we can look at our gauge to see what our system pressure is set at. We'll need to adjust this system relief here. And then this valve here is a single acting valve for running a hydraulic cylinder, a hoist. It's called a tall boy high boy. Is it called a high boy? Yeah, it's called a high boy valve. And you'll see that it's got a taller section here just because it's got port reliefs in it. So we want to dial this down to about 2,000 PSI, maybe 2,500. We're going to run the system pressure relief. The system relief, we're going to run that pressure at about 3,500, 3,250, somewhere around there. And then that's going to allow that kind of flow to come out of this rear valve, which this is a motor spool meant for running hydraulic motors on the manure tanker and the hydraulic drive motors for the drag chain on the Moss trailer. So we'll go ahead and get our flow meter hooked up. Then we'll have to have a little assistance from Jared to run that, and we'll get this dialed in, and then we'll see what kind of flow, gallons per minute, that this system is putting out compared to the Gemini system that we have on the Peterbilt. I'm hoping this has more flow than that Gemini system. So let's get our meter hooked up and see how things pan out here. Well, we've got that hooked up. Now we'll go ahead and start the truck up, fire up the PTO, and just let the hydraulic system idle just to see if we have any leaks here. We're going to have to clean this up a little bit. I did drip a little bit of oil on top of our workings here, and unfortunately the paint is not going to stick to that. We might need to change this end here because that should not do that. We have not screwed around with our relief at all. That might be factory set at 3,500 already. So we'll dial this up. This truck is just idling at, well, it's coming up to 3,000 at 20 gallons a minute. That's just idling. Go ahead and hit the throttle. We're spiking almost 3,000. We're hitting 42 gallons a minute. So that bangs it right out of the park. 42 gallons a minute at 3,000 PSI. That'll really walk the dog, you know that? It does. Well, we're putting a lot of force down to it. We'll never need to run that hard. The silage trailer may be starting it, will spike there, but it'll never get to that kind of flow. Well, we ended up achieving 42 to 45 gallons a minute, right around 3,000 PSI. And what we'll go ahead and do now is we'll get these catwalks out of the way. We'll get our air hoses unhooked so that I don't end up with paint all over them. These air hoses are going to sneak in through here, and they're going to come up and hook into the shift control cylinders on the other side. I've got them just draped up across here so I could kind of run that. We're going to have to figure out what we can put against this 12-inch channel. Maybe we'll put a piece of 6-inch and just tack weld that on there to fill this void in so that nobody ends up with their foot down through there. So we didn't end up with any oil leaks. The only oil leak we have is this coupler here. We probably should just change it and get rid of it. It's leaking, and it made a mess on there. I didn't want to have paint on anything because I wanted to make sure we didn't have any oil leaks. Now I'm going to have to clean that up with some gas and blow all that oil out from underneath this valve so that we can get some paint to stick to it. So we'll join up with you once we get a little further ahead. Jared's got his used engine sitting in that crate, and he's going to get this engine that he bought ready to go in. He's got the, well, you got the hook on there, huh? Yeah, he's got the grab hook on there, and once he's ready to set that into place, we'll give him a hand getting it in here. Now, when we took this engine off last week, or took it out, we took it out without this front structure out of here. He's gonna unbolt that so that instead of going down and in, he can just kind of go in. This engine goes in underneath the cab quite a little ways here, and it's going to be harder to put it in than it was to get it out. Usually in life things are opposite of that. It goes in a lot easier than it comes out. So yeah. Well, we've got a piece of channel iron cut that we're going to set in right in behind this one. Sets over the frame, and I've got it cut out for the filter and the return line. So that's going to push right in up tight to this one that the valve body is mounted to. Then our catwalk is going to fit very nicely and behind it. So we're just about ready to mask off our pieces, shoot paint on that and the other piece of channel iron that I have that I'm going to set on that frame. We're gonna help Jared get this engine set into this truck. He's ready to do that right now. So we'll get this chained up and then set it in there. He's got the front of the frame apart so that we can just kind of slide it into place. Well, we are down to the last little bit here in this video. We've got this Western Star painted. The paint has sat overnight. It is dry enough to handle, but not dry enough to not leave fingerprints. So we've got our electrical line to hook up, our pogo stick, and get our catwalks into place, and that's going to be it for that. We tried putting this engine in last night by hooking a chain around the tool carrier of the telehandler, and that didn't work. So we got this piece of rectangle tube that we're going to slide the fork in, and we hope that is going to allow us to reach in and set that engine down. So let's go ahead and see how this turns out here. That there works pretty good. A lot better than trying to balance it on the tool carrier. A little too much weight for the end of that fork. But we probably should have a chain going from that up to the tool carrier. Engine weighs like 2,900 pounds, I think he said it weighed. He weighed it the other day when he brought it back. Well, that worked very nice trying to put it in like that. We had a telehandler on here last night, and I don't know how we got the old one out, but we tried to put this one in the way the other one came out, and it just did not want to go in. We did hit the cab on the way out with the tool carrier, but we had so much force with that rear chain against the back side of the valve cover, we figured that what we were going to probably do is get it 7/8 of the way in there, and that chain would have broke that valve cover and Jake housing, and then we would have been SOL. So we'll show you what things look like coming through. There's a little bit of a doghouse here, if you will, in this cab. So it's got this plastic enclosure in and under the dash, and this is where we have the tube chained to the back of the engine. So we'll go ahead and get this. He's going to get the front two mounts in there, and then he's going to get that tube off of there, and we'll get the Western Star finished up. They're putting a couple of tires on that truck. That's what's going on over in that bay. Well, we've got this Western Star all ready to go. We've got the valve body sitting right on top of the frame. We had to put an additional piece in here to kind of go around the hydraulic filter head. And then, of course, we've got the catwalks on there behind, and then one in front. We do have a little hole right there, but you shouldn't be in there at all. I've got new hoses, new electrical leads, and we've got an additional lead that goes to, well, we have to power our lift axle through the other lead, and we've got some work lights and whatever that we like to use on the trailer as well. So we ended up achieving like 42 to 44 gallons a minute at 3,000 PSI. I did not adjust the relief at all. I left it alone. We're gonna run it some, and then we can hook back up to it and see what it has for hydraulic pressure after we've been using it. We'll also be able to monitor how much pressure we are putting out by just watching or looking at the gauge that I have on top of the console. So we've got this toggle switch here. They're both pneumatic toggle switches, and this one that's closest to the driver's seat is for the double acting valve, and then this one here would be for your hoist, and this one on the other side is for the engagement of the PTO. So Jared's got the engine on this truck 7 all bolted into place. He's waiting for a wire harness to adapt from the 40 pin engine to go to the 70 pin harness that's on the truck. He doesn't really want to put anything more on this engine. He wants to hear it run first, or else he would get everything all set and on there and just get the wire harness, plug it in, and go. But he doesn't want to waste a bunch of time and effort if there's something wrong with this engine. So that's going to do it for this video. We have the 9320 in here. Just we've got a rear wiper motor that is bad on it. We ordered it the other day and it was the wrong one. So we got the top of the cab tore apart, and there it sits. So that's going to do it, folks. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next video.